Hello, I am Bong Kai-moon, and welcome to the 2012 United Nations Nuclear Energy Summit. Today we have representatives from Germany, Japan, France, and the United States of America. Along with examining the use of nuclear energy at an international level, we will also be looking at implementation of solutions on a national and even local level. It has come to the United Nations' attention that fossil fuels are going to run out and that they are not sustainable in our growing world. That leaves hydroelectric power, wind power, solar power, and nuclear power as options. Solar power is sustainable, but we do not have the money or technology yet to implement it everywhere. Hydropower and wind power are not usable in all areas because not all places have the necessary water or wind. This leaves coal and nuclear power. Nuclear power has many concerns about safety and disposal, but also has the potential to be a very sustainable method of power. What we need is a bridge between oil and solar. Is nuclear energy that bridge? In this conference, we will discuss the pros and cons of nuclear energy and hopefully reach a conclusion on if nuclear power is the future in order to sustain our growing nations. Japan, we will start with your opinions.
We in Japan pride ourselves in our nuclear program. It has about 50 main reactors that supply about 30% of our country's electricity. Although nuclear weapons have been used previously against our country, we have been harnessing the powers of nuclear fission for a more peaceful purpose since 1966, when our country's first commercial nuclear reactor began operating. As you know, nuclear energy is the use of nuclear fission to create heat then electricity. The first part of the nuclear energy production process is the mining of uranium. Since our country doesn't have any natural uranium reserve, we import it from other countries, mainly Australia, Canada, and Kazakhstan. Then we have to enrich and manufacture the uranium so it becomes usable nuclear fuel. After we use it in a power plant, the spent fuel is delivered to a reprocessing plant where most of it is reused. The remaining waste is then placed in steel canisters which will eventually be put in a deep geological final repository where it can be stored in a safe place where leakage will not occur. However, the canisters are currently being stored above ground in the Mori Prefecture. Many of you may remember the nuclear power disaster that we experienced recently because of the 2011 earthquake. This disaster occurred when the tsunami disconnected the reactors from the power grid, causing them to overheat. Although there are safety risks, we still believe that nuclear power is a very efficient, low-cost power source. However, we are re-examining our energy policy and reviewing our nuclear energy program. As part of this review, we will be looking at the possibility of decreasing our dependence on nuclear energy.
Germany?
Well, let me just say that nuclear power is not a sustainable source whatsoever. For starters, uranium-235, the uranium used in the power plants, is going to be gone in the next 30 to 60 years, depending on the actual demand. Reactors are also terrible on the environment and the inhabitants of the area. They can add pollutants to the water and change the water temperature, affecting marine biology. Reactors produce nuclear waste products which emit dangerous radiation. The waste has to be kept in special and difficult ways. A lot of waste is currently stored in special cooling pools in the plant. The waste must be kept 10,000 years according to United States Environmental Protection Agency standards. This is far too long to handle. Also, this never-ending waste will be a great target for terrorists because if the radiation is not controlled, it could kill and hurt many people. Even a nuclear power plant alone has problems. Every 18 to 24 months, nuclear power plants must shut down to remove and replace the spent uranium fuel. These plants also are not safe. Do any of you remember the familiar stories of the Chernobyl disaster, the Fukushima Daiichi disaster, and the 3 Mile Island accident? The plants are not the only dangerous part of nuclear power. Even mining for uranium is dangerous. As one of the leaders in Germany, I can assure my citizens that I will not put upon this hold. Germany will close all nuclear power plants by 2022. Dankeschön.
What is your opinion, France?
Nuclear energy will be a sustainable source of energy. It not only reduces carbon emission, but because it releases water vapor as its byproduct, it is more environmentally friendly and limits global warming. It is a source of base-located electricity 24/7. nuclear power plants could still produce electricity after coal and oil become scarce, and nuclear power plants also need less fuel. 1 ton of uranium produces more energy than is produced by several million tons of coal or several million barrels of oil. Just one uranium fuel pellet, which is about the size of the tip of a person's little finger, has the same amount of energy as 17,000 cubic feet of natural gas, 1,780 pounds of coal, or 149 gallons of oil. It can produce electricity in quantities that would require over 60 square miles of solar panels and anywhere from 15 to over 180 square miles of wind turbines. This is also the most concentrated type of energy. It is the most compact waste and is the most inexpensive form of energy. Another good thing about this method is it is already developed. The costs to run a plant are continually going down, while the costs for production of oil and coal are rising. Also, coal is more dangerous than nuclear energy. For every death caused by nuclear energy, 4,000 people die from coal production. Many of you worry that the uranium will run out in 30 to 60 years. Well, I am here to address this problem with an international solution. France's solution, that is implemented in only France, is the Boiter reactor. The Boiter reactor uses uranium-238 rather than uranium-235. Uranium-238 is a plentiful compound and is said to be available from the land for at least 30,000 years, plus another 5 billion years if extracted from seawater. This newer technology can use spent uranium and produces more radioactive fuels than it uses, therefore helping to support an additional reactor. The Boiter reactor does have some disadvantages though. The half-life of the uranium is 24,000 years, and some believe that the waste can be used to make bombs. Even with these few disadvantages, the Boiter reactor has great potential to satisfy the needs for sustainable energy in our growing world.
The United States, do you have anything you'd like to add?
We have found that nuclear energy is a very cost-efficient form of energy. It is, in fact, the lowest cost provider of electricity. The power plants are also a good revenue and job source for the cities that have them. On average, a nuclear power plant produces $470 million and a tax revenue of $16 million. They also employ 3,500 people during the construction of them and employ 400 to 700 people long term, with an average salary about 36% higher than the average salary. Creating nuclear power plants would supply many jobs for the unemployed, thus helping the economy as well. It is basically a win-win situation from my perspective. Many people are worried about the waste that nuclear energy produces. It may be a potential solution to store the waste in one area. This way, the waste location could be better designed and would have less potential of contamination. Ideally, the waste location would have a low population and be easily accessible. We have compiled interviews that we have conducted all over the United States that show what citizens think about nuclear energy and their misconceptions about it.
There's a lot of talk about building nuclear power plants in areas all across the USA. If one was built where you live, what would you think of it?
What? A nuclear power plant? Here? What are they thinking? Nuclear power plants are like so unsafe. I mean, can't the waste be used to make nuclear weapons? And then terrorists could get a hold of it and make nuclear bombs and we die. And then the plants can like melt down and release all this like radioactive bad stuff and we'd all like get mutated and have like 3 arms. And I don't want that for my little snookums. And like the Chernobyl accident in Russia, didn't that release like all this radioactivity? And that like thousands of people died. And it absolutely wrecked the land. And plus, putting a nuclear reactor here, it would just endanger everybody living here. and we don't want that.
The government has been talking about placing nuclear power plant in your area. What do you think of this idea?
Aren't nuclear power plants really expensive? I know the cost of oil is rising, but it's nowhere near as expensive as nuclear energy. Fossil fuels are way cheaper. I've heard that fossil fuels have been contributing to global warming, but so what? Who cares if it's a few degrees warmer in Minnesota? I don't think we should be spending money on expensive power sources like nuclear energy when there's a cheaper alternative.
There are many nuclear power plants that have been built in the United States, and there's plans to build more. The waste created by these plants needs to be safely stored. There may be a waste storage site in your area, Hawaii. Would you be okay with that?
No way, the waste stays around for thousands of years. Over this time, it could seep into the ground and contaminate all of our Hawaiian beaches. I don't want to be anywhere near such a toxic substance, especially when I'm surfing. We should close nuclear power plants so we don't have this waste to deal with. I'm sure they've endangered enough people.
The United States has 104 nuclear reactors and are planning on building 4 to 6 new ones by 2020. What would you think if a nuclear reactor was proposed in your area?
Nuclear energy is no better than fossil fuels. It's not sustainable. Uranium could run out very soon. What will we do then? We need to find a new source of energy. We should invest in solar, wind, and other forms of renewable energy, not nuclear energy. By investing in nuclear energy, we're just repeating what we did in the Industrial Revolution, becoming dependent on a non-renewable source of energy. Well, sure, nuclear energy doesn't cause pollution, but we won't be able to fulfill our needs from it for very long. Rebecca, come get your cookies. Oh, would you like a cookie? As you can see, many people have misconceptions about nuclear power and believe that it is a bad idea. On a local level, we will be doing all we can to convince people and educate people about the benefits of nuclear energy. By doing this, they may become less resistant to nuclear reactors and/or waste repositories being built in their area. Remember, no matter what misconceptions there are about nuclear energy, nuclear energy causes way fewer deaths than fossil fuels, is currently the cheapest form of clean energy, is sustainable with the use of uranium-238, and it is possible to dispose of the spent nuclear waste in a way that does not endanger people or the environment.
In conclusion, we have found that nuclear energy has many pros and a few cons, but I believe that adding more nuclear reactors throughout the world would have a positive effect on the environment as long as the reactors implemented are breeder reactors, the waste is disposed safely, and people are educated on a local level about the benefits and potential hazards of nuclear energy. Thank you all and have a good evening.
Thanks for watching our presentation. Just to review is that our national solution and international solution, mainly our international solution, is the implementation of breeder reactors. In terms of our national solution, it's the way in which we can store the waste. Instead of having breeder reactor storage sites built all over the U.S., we should have them all in one location so that you could do a better job with that particular waste storage site so that you had less chances for contamination. And in terms of our local solution, we need to educate the people about breeder reactors and why this is the solution of the future.